So yeah. So who am I? I am Lakshya Singh, and I am a Postman student expert over here at IIT BHU. And this is my Twitter handle, which you can use if you want to contact me at any times. I'm an open source contributor. That's my title for since last Hacktoberfest, if you are familiar with the event. And yeah, so right now I'll be taking this workshop, and let's get started. Okay. So the agenda for today's workshop is, first we'll head over to what are APIs and what is Postman, and how are they useful for us in industrial and development purposes. Then we'll head over to what are requests and responsive. And since it's in hands-on session, we'll try things out in the third agenda. And finally, we'll follow up with some resources that you can try out after this workshop. And finally, we'll have our Q&A. I will make sure to look over the chats if you want to ask some questions meanwhile. But if you want to keep your questions till the end, that's fine as well. Okay. So yeah. So what are APIs? So you can think of APIs as a digital restaurant. So and what is API in that restaurant? Your waiter is your API. So what happens is you as a customer request something from the waiter. So let's say you tell the waiter, bring me some delicacy. Okay. And the waiter informs the chef that the customer has requested for this delicacy. Then the chef, while he creates your delicious delicacy, the waiter waits, and finally, when it's ready, it delivers it back to the customer. So, in simple form, this is what API actually does. So, it takes a request from the user, it sends it back to the chef, it sends it back to the server, and gets a response, or we can say a resource, back from the server and delivers it back to the user. So that's a simplistic view of what APIs are. More technical view, since it's a technical workshop, so we cannot just talk about restaurants. So in a technical view, you can think of it as like you have a client. So your client can be your mobile phone, your laptops, your website, any application is a client. And then there is an API involved in between the client and the server. So the servers are the one which are located in Silicon Valley, maybe Bangalore, maybe California, anywhere. And what happens is the client requests something through these APIs, and it sends it back to the server. It sends it to the server processes it for us, and then sends it back to the API, and the API delivers it back to the client. So this is how APIs work, right? And so you might be wondering, so what is actually the full form of API? It's a really scary one, I might say. It is application programming interfaces. Okay. And they allow services to communicate with each other. So these are interfaces, like they will allow you to access resources that they have, right? So resources can be anything, starting from a response or a username or your profile. Anything can be a resource. And so we are very much familiar that software development has become more complex. At the same time, it has become more collaborative. Okay. So you no longer need to create everything from scratch, right? You can use APIs developed over years by some developers which are quite better than us, and they develop these strong APIs which are uh, tested well, and they are very much suitable for our jobs, right? So these APIs allow us to access data from these services. These APIs can be created by anyone. We can use Google's API, we can use Twitter's API, we can use Facebook's API, and we don't need to know like what is the actual code that gets it working. We just need to know how to get working with these APIs. So that simplifies our task, right? So that is what the task does. So let's take a bit more technical view of what APIs actually do. So let's say you have your Instagram app. So can you tell me what the Instagram app is for us in APIs respect? Anyone? You can answer it in the chat box. What is Instagram in perspective of the diagram we just saw? No one? Okay. So someone says interface, someone says APIs. All right, we have the correct answer. So showcasing a post. So in respect of influencer. Okay, so in respect of API design, it's our client. And so Instagram, you open up your cameras for posting a story. You went to a cool restaurant. Now you want to post your story sharing that, hey, I ate this cool delicacy. You should try it out as well. Okay. So you open up your story app and then you inform via, Instagram accesses your camera, right? So how does it do that? It does it through APIs. So camera has its own API, which Instagram accesses to take a picture, beautiful picture of that food that you are eating over here so that you can finally show it off to your friends. The camera API responds back with an image, and then Instagram client uses that image and sends it back to the server. The server then processes it, and finally your friends can see what is happening up with you, like what food are you eating over here. Okay, all right, you are eating something. Yeah. So that is what happened. A client requests a service through the camera API, then it accesses the server APIs to send back your data, and finally the users, they access this data using Instagram app, which is being served by the server. So how many, like there are many APIs out there, right? So there is cat API. If you don't like cats, there is a dog API. I love dogs, right? So there is a dog API for me. There is open weather map API, which allows you to access weather. There is a Genius API. There is API for Discord. There is Spotify, Twitter, Facebook. Everyone has their own APIs, which allow you to access their services, right? So if you remember, like how you joined this session, you logged in via Google, and like Google, this is Google developers platform, so you were allowed to log in with Google. So that is also using Google's authentication APIs. Let's say when you log in at Instagram, you use your Facebook APIs to log in, right? So these are several of these APIs which you can use, right? So you might remember from your childhood, right? We used to play with Lego bricks. I don't think children nowadays do it, but I at least used to play with Lego bricks. So with Lego bricks, you can build up something really cool and amazing, right? So that is, APIs are a part of that Lego bricks. APIs are particular Lego bricks that you can use to join in several components together and build up some really cool app. Maybe the next Facebook, maybe the next Instagram. So that is what API does. It builds up this communication service between several of the platforms. So the session is named APIs 101 with Postman. So what exactly is Postman? So Postman is a collaborative API development platform that simplifies creating, using, and testing APIs. Okay. So 90% of the companies use Postman, and there are several of these. Like you can see, Uber uses it, Walt Disney uses it. I guess Marvel also might use it since they are under Walt Disney. So yeah, a lot of uh, every company I guess uses Postman because it is not easy to test APIs out. So you need some sort of UI that can simplify that task for you, and that is what Postman does. It simplifies that task for you, and even you can test your APIs for how good they are. So that is what API does, right? APIs allow you to access your data, and Postman simplifies your task. So if you actually try to test your APIs right now, so if you are a Linux user, this is, can someone tell me what terminal this is? Like what OS or what Linux this is, if anyone is familiar, right? This is Bash. Yeah, this is Ubuntu's Bash. So I don't remember what the shell is exactly named. So each one has its own name, but yeah, this is Ubuntu. So what you are doing right now over here, it is you are making, you need to make a curl, you need to use the curl command line tool to access your API. So here we are using curl -v curl.hex, and then it is returning me back the data. And this looks really odd to me. Like I can't analyze it, I can't interpret it. So how does it look in Postman? So in Postman, we have the simple UI. I make a GET request, I get some data back. And yeah, this is easier for me to access, right? So it will be easier for you to also use, right? So this is how easy Postman makes it for us to use APIs. So we'll head over to the second agenda in our workshop, which is request and responses. So in request and response architecture, what happens is that clients makes a request to the server through the network, and server holds resources. It can be your database, it can be your mp3 file, it can be a video that server hosts. So the client requests something from the server, and the server responds back to the client using that API. Okay, so the API responds back to the client, say, hey, here is your video link, now use it and do whatever you want to do with it, right? So that's what APIs does. It takes a request, it sends back a response after processing is done by the server. So making requests is a difficult part. So what we do is we split it into 3 sections. So first of all, there are methods: get, post, input, etc. Then there is the URL, and finally there is the path. So these are the 3 components that you need to make a successful API call. So let's over to a hands-on session. So I will open my Postman over here, and okay, I will open up my workspace. I guess it is visible. Yeah. Okay. So let's create a new HTTP request over here. And what I will do is I will just copy paste google.com. So here is google.com, and I will send in a GET request. So you see, it returns back to me this HTML document, right? So that is what happens with you when you access Google, right? When I load in google.com, it returns me back this HTML, right? So that is what happened over here. It returned me back an HTML. And if I want to visualize it, okay, let's preview it. So this is how it looks like. It's Google's 23rd birthday. I don't know if it's, okay, it's their 23rd birthday. And yeah, this is how it looks like, right? So that is the response I got back from Google when I tried to make a GET request to their endpoint. So how will we search about it, right? Can you increase the font a bit? Okay. So yeah, we can zoom in over here. So this should be visible, I guess. Okay. Is it somewhat visible now? Arjun, is it visible? Yeah, cool. Okay. So as you can see, I made a request to google.com, and finally I got back this body, which is a HTML document. It's nothing, it has its head tag, it has its some data, it has body and all this. Okay. So this was a HTTP request. Now, if I want to search something, what will I do? So I will write over here, search for me Postman, send this request. And if I preview it this time, you will see there is Postman written over here. So this is what the difference does, right? I wrote something over here and Google interpreted it and provided me this page. Now, you might be wondering, like, why wasn't, like, you need to, when you search something, it provides you with results, right? So why weren't the results provided? Exactly. I see Amarjeet Kaur, right? Great. So exactly, right. This is what happened. The URL I used over here, it is google.com and it is not the search one. So let's change it. And if I send in search over here this time, let's see what happens. So yeah, here I got back all the results. And yeah, so this is how Google works, right? So I had google.com, then I provided in the search and I told it to search for Postman. Let's see how it will happen when I search it manually. So I searched over here and I got these results. So let's take a moment. So what Postman provides is that you see that the URL over here is far bigger than what it was, right? So it is not exactly the same as one we use. The one we use was far more simpler, right? This has lots of data in it. So okay, what Postman will provide us, it's really cool. Like I can post this in, and then I can see what all these things are. So these are all parameters that Google was sending in when I was making an individual request. So there is this XSRF, source, EI, GSLCP, and etc. There is an S client. So there are several things that Google sends if I search it out as a user. But if I search it out as normal search query Postman, then it's simple. And if I search this time with this URL, you might see that there is, so you see all these parameters, right? We didn't need them, so we can go back to our normal one and it still happens, right? So let's get back to the presentation. Rains in Rajasthan. Yeah, it's rare, but it happens. So what we did was we made a request something like this, right? And this was a GET request. So this was the method which we used. So this was a GET request which we used to retrieve information. Then there is post method which we use to send in information. There is put and patch which we use to update information, and then there is delete we use to delete information. So these are the 5 major methods that we use while we are making requests. And this was our URL. So let's split it up. It has components. So this was the protocol. The protocol can be HTTP or HTTPS, right? So you can think, so you might be familiar what HTTP is, right? Can someone type in the chat what is HTTP, the full form, or maybe anything about HTTP? Waiting for your responses. Let's see. Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Great. Everyone has passed 12th class, I guess, so they are familiar with the full forms. Okay. And so what is HTTPS now? If anyone is familiar, I'd like to see like secure, right? You can interpret it as secure HTTP, but it uses some form of encryption that secures your data. So yeah, you need a SSL certification for it. Yeah. So this is our protocol which are using. Then there is the address. So our address was google.com. This can be an IP address as well, but ours was a simple google.com, right? And then finally, this is our path, which we use to, which is the destination, which can serve some request protocol. Yeah, exactly. Vikram Pratap Singh. Yeah, HTTPS is different. So there are some details you need to look at when you are building. So I guess the part about what the URL was clear. And if you have any queries, you can still type in. I'm looking at the query so I can look over them. And yeah, so this was a simple request, but when you need to make some complex request, right, you need to use several parameters. So there are parameters, then there is authorization, and then there is headers and bodies. So right now, if does anyone of you remember what was the parameter when we made the Google request? There was a parameter when we used. That was the method. Postman was the UI. What was the parameter? Q, exactly. Yeah, right. Q was the parameter. Yeah, so Q was the parameter that we were using when we were making that request. And there is so then there is authorization, headers, and bodies. So let's go back to our demo and see. So this was the parameter that we were using. Postman also allows us to use one other form of parameter which we call as path variables. So this is a path variable. You can use your parameters alongside it. So this is called query params, and that colon ID is called as path variable. So this is how you use a path variable, and this is Postman, right? So this was our param, this was path variable. Back to the presentation. So that was parameter. Then there is authorization and headers. So let's go back and look over what the headers were. So this is headers, right? Yeah. So I guess the text is the font is visible to you, right? Anyone is not having any trouble looking at? Okay, cool. So the font is visible. Yeah. So these are your headers. So they can be cookies, host, user agent, uh, except encoding connection. So you can see like the one of the simplest one to interpret over here is user agent, which is Postman runtime. If you look over here, I will open my developers console. So this makes me look cool. I guess I can open developer console. You can also look cool by using developer console in front of a friend sometimes. So yeah. So when we look over here, let's see what the headers were. So this was a get method. There was a status code involved, and I'm looking for what was the client. Okay, I'm not able to find the client. Okay, there was cookie over here as well. There was schema. Okay, so the client is not visible right now. Okay, let's leave it to that. So a client was Postman, and you can read about all these headers, like what they do. So this is, you might have seen in you might have seen it in your, like when you open up a site, it asks for like would you allow cookies, right? So that is how cookies work. This is the cookie header. Then there is a connection header which tells it to keep the connection alive. And yeah, so these were our headers. Back to the presentation. Okay. Oh, there was one more thing. So you might not want always for like anyone to drop into your API and use it, right? You might want to establish some sort of authorization. So going into the definition of what authorization is, so authorization identifies who this person is that is accessing my API. So authorization can be in several forms. So there is bearer tokens, there is API tokens, and these are the popular ones, the OAuth APIs, which allow you to sign in through Google in several sites, right? So this is what authorization does. It identifies your user, like who this guy is. I want to know, right? I won't allow him access to my API until and unless he tells me what is his name, what is his branch, or anything like that, right? So that can be your user. Let's get back. So we covered over the parameters, authorization, and headers, and then there was body. So let's look at body again. So right now we weren't sending any body, but you can also send in body. So like when you wish to send in some data, you want to use body because you don't want to send all your data in this URL, right? You want it to look neat sometimes, and also these are the standards. So you would need to use body when you are sending large amounts of data to your APIs. Okay, let's continue. So what is like, so the body, so that the body contains our data. So this is particularly used when you are making a post input request. So does someone remember what post request does, like what post method does and what put method does? We just covered them over. So why would we need a request from them? Yeah, so with post you send data. And what about update? Okay, Ash. With put you update data, right? So yeah, Ayush Gangwani very well said. With put and patch you update the data. So I said the answer myself, but never mind. So with put you update the data, but with post you send in new data. And what that data can be? That data can be form data when you fill. Okay, so someone's is asking the difference between put and patch. So put, there is a standard for them, right? So put can sometimes be used to create data as well, while patch just means you have to create, you are appending something or updating the data. And if someone has a good answer to this, like I'm not pretty sure right now because these are standard things. And yeah, so Kushal has an answer, warranty and guarantee sort of things. Yeah. So that is what is the difference between put and patch. So let's get back to what the data types were. So you can use form data, you can use JSON, you can use text, HTML, XML files, anything. So for this example, we will look at JSON data, right? So this is how a JSON data looks like. And this is how JSON data looks like, right? So JSON data has keys and values. So name, gender, email, your email, birth year, etc. So these are key value pairs that we use when we send in a JSON data. So when you receive response back, right? So this was all about sending in response, sending in a request. Now, what about when we want to receive, what will we receive back from the user? So you receive back status code, you receive back headers, and you receive back data. So what are status codes? So these are the HTTP status codes, right? So 200, if you receive back a status code which is 200, it signifies that your request was successfully interpreted by the server, and it might return back you something or it might not. 201 is created. So let's think about it. When will we get back 201? You can answer it in chat box. When will we get back 201? What method? When you make a new account, when you use put request, yeah, when you make post request, exactly. So when you create something using put or post, you will get back a 201 response. This is a standard, but sometimes people might use to send like people don't follow standard, right? We cannot enforce it on them, so they might send in a 200 back, which is not a good practice, but people do it. And there is this 404, which we all know, right? Not found. And yeah, so these are HTTP status codes, but there are other APIs that might use other status values, but these are the standard HTTP code. So there is a standard that this status means this in HTTP. And if I quote that there is a status code which means I don't remember its exact value, it is I guess around 300, and it is called as teapot. It is called as teapot, and I don't know what it does, but it's a cool code to have, right? So there is a teapot as well. And yeah, in response, you get back your headers, like the ones we sent. We also get some headers back in response. And finally, we need our data, right? We might be creating something, but we might be fetching back something. So when you made the Google request, we got back some data, right? So that was the data we got back from Google. So now I will share this link with you all. If you can get on your laptops, and you can quickly head over to this link. Right. So we will get going with our hands-on session now. So you can quickly go over this link, and yeah. So let me just stop the presentation for a second. Okay, where were we? Yeah, we were over here, and yeah, I will also go over here. Use this for the time being. And yeah, so this is our workspace, and so this is our workspace that we'll be using. And what you need to do is, okay, I will zoom in. This should be visible now. So what you all need to do is you need to fork this. So you can create a fork. You need to be logged in for this. So we mentioned in the workshop description that you should have a Postman account. So let me know if you are doing it. Just mention it in the chat box that you are doing the hands-on with me. So at least I'm familiar that someone is doing it. Yes, I see one. Yes. Okay, cool. Many people are doing it. Great. So yeah, so let's say it is APIs 101 box, and I only have my workspace, which should be the same with you. So you need to fork it in your my workspace, and yeah, so this will reload the page, and yeah, so this is how this looks. All right, and let me just set this. No, it won't shift. Okay, so this is how it looks like, and then we have this data. So yeah, Ali has posted in the direct URL if you need it, so you can also access it. And so in this, so when you use APIs, right? So when you use something new, right? When you, as a developer, when you use something new, what is the first thing that you look at to get things working? Obviously, there is code that you request with, like, please make my code work. But what is the other thing that you read? Documentation, right? Documentation is a very good practice to read at first, and Postman provides you with this method to access documentation right in your API collection. So you can click on these three dots and you can see the documentation. All right. So as you can see in this, we have three APIs, which is quote API, jokes API, and books API. So I will leave this to you to select one for me. So just drop in the one which you want me to continue the hands-on workshop with, and we will use that one. Jokes, jokes, I see jokes, jokes. Okay, great. I also wanted to use the jokes API, so yeah, that is great. I don't see anyone using quotes or books. That is sad, but it's all right. I wanted to use jokes, so let's go ahead with jokes. So, right, I will be using jokes over here. I will be using the jokes API over here, but you can use the other APIs as well. So over here, you can see that there is this index which you can use to access other APIs. So let's head over to jokes API. So this is the base URL that we have to use. So I will copy it over, copy link address, and then you can click on this drop down. There is this Git. So I will paste this URL over here. All right. Okay, so you can send in this, and yeah, make sure to follow along. I did send my GET request. So did you also send in your GET request? So let me know what the result was. What response did you get back in the chat box? So yeah, let me know what response did you get back in the chat. Hello world. Yeah. The first thing that we do as programmers, we print in hello world, and then we conquer this world. Okay. So I also got back a hello world. So yeah, great. I also got back hello world. And yeah, so let's get back to the documentation. So the documentation tells me that we have this GET request. By default, we have 4 jokes. So what we need to do is we will copy over /jokes and we'll paste it over here. You need just one slash, and you can save your API. You can save what you did till now over here and then press and send. So what did you get this time? Let me know the joke that you got back, or if there was any error. What was the joke? Let's share some jokes amongst us. So let me know what was the joke that you got back. Romir got back. How did Coder CEO build his company headquarters? By calling constructor. That is one cool one. First rule of programming: if it works, do not touch it. That is the only rule of programming, I guess. If it works, don't touch it. Yeah. So let's head back to the documentation. So the documentation tells me that we have 4 jokes and ranging from ID 0 to 3. And these are the jokes that you will get back. So let's try out. Let's say I type in, don't want a random joke this time. I got back a joke with ID 3, but this time I want joke with ID 1. So yeah, I got back the joke with ID 1. What is hardware? The part of computer which you can kick. All right. So I got back the joke with ID 1. Let's try out 2. Yeah. So who is programmer? A programmer is a machine who turns coffee into code. So that was joke with ID 2. All right. So we are on to something. So we made a GET request, right? So we got back our data. Now let's add some joke of our own, right? Have been programmers for like what? I've been for 2.5 years. Some of you might be for 1.5 years. So we also know some jokes, right? So let's see who adds in the best jokes. So what you can do is click on these three dots and click on duplicate. All right. So we have a duplicate copy. First of all, change back this to post. Over here, change it back to post data. Right. Don't send in the request yet and change this to /joke. All right. So what we did right now, we changed the method, we changed the title, and we made amends to the URL as well. I will make the amend over here as well. Save it. So yeah, right now I have this post request ready to be sent. Let's send it. What did I get back? You didn't provide me any ID. You didn't provide me anything else. I got back some headers and I got back a 400. sorry. So what does 400 mean? 400 means is that the request cannot be fulfilled due to bad syntax. Okay, you weren't able to find the documentation. So for documentation, click on these three dots and head over to view documentation. All right. Gaurav, let me know if you are able to access the documentation now. You can click on these three dots and then you can click on view documentation. Only trash is coming. Open trash. I'm not sure. Can anyone else confirm they are facing the same issue? Gaurav, what you can do is you can fork the API. Okay, Yash is on to something. So yeah, listen to what Yash has to say. And if that doesn't work out for you, make another fork and that might work out for you. Okay. So over here, I was shouted on by the API that, okay, it worked. Great. So I was shouted on by the API that it is a 400 request. You made a bad request. I'm not going to respond back to it. Okay. So what we need to do, let's get back to the documentation, basics of API over in the post request. So my URL was correct. And then what it asked me was add a body to your request and select JSON from drop down. Okay, I will do that. So I selected body, then I selected, okay, let's see, form data XML raw, and you need to select raw and you need to select JSON. All right. So what I did, I went to the body, I selected raw, and from the top down, I selected JSON. Now let's get back to the documentation. So this is an example of the body. Okay. So I will just copy it over here. I'm not that smart that I can make a joke right now on my own. So I'll copy over here, copy the data. Make sure you update the ID. So let's think of it. So someone tell me a joke in the chat box and I will post it over here. That's great. Python developers can't see. That's a cool one. I will copy over here, copy this one. I will copy this one. Yeah. So make sure you choose a positive integer for the ID. And my birth date is 11, so I chose in 11. That is my favorite number. And let's see. Okay, this looks all right. The source was, author is obviously me because I am posting it, but the source for me was Pranshu Kashyap. I guess I spelled it right. Okay. So let's try it out again. Yeah. Make sure you don't use Ali's name. Okay. So let's try it out again. Someone used my 11. That is not at all cool. That is bad. Let's check who made the 11th joke. Let's see. Oh, okay, you used Ali's name. Anyways, I will have to use some other number. So I will use 22 this time. Okay, 22 also exists. What is happening? What should I do? Yeah, 101 also exists. Are you guys leaving anything for me to use? Okay, 111. Great. Finally, I have something to use. Okay, this is also cool. I have two 11s in there right now. Okay, so that was 111 and I used it over here. And yeah, so what I got back 200. And yeah, so that worked out well for me. And yeah, so that was 111 I get back. So what is 201? Yeah, so this is working. So now let's get back over here and try out 111. So yeah, I got back my joke over here and let's see. You are all using the jokes API, I assume, right? So I will open up something for you to see what. Let's get back to documentation. Okay, let's get, we are in the documentation, and I can go over here, and then what I can do is I can go over to joke. I got back a joke, and then second, I can go over to view, and I get all these jokes, right? So HTML is not a programming language, beats and beaches, bugs and features. So I get all these kinds of jokes, right? Spiders are the only web developers in the world that enjoy finding bugs. Great, great. Okay, so you can see all these jokes. There might be some of them might be the ones that you have written over here. So I see Athav Bhatt, I see Manan, Prakhar Agarwal, Bhavya Malhotra, and yeah, you can see your jokes over here. So let's get back to the demonstration. So I made a joke, right? But let's give some respect to Python, right? You should write it in capitals. Someone should have told me that wasn't good. So we should start the sentence with capital letters, I guess. Right. So you should use capital letters, right? That is the standard, I assume. So let's make a put request this time. And I will save the work I have done till now. Make sure you save your work because otherwise it will be lost. Okay. So put data, or I can just say update data for someone not familiar with all this. So this was JSON. And what was my joke? My joke was 111. And then I will just copy over my data that I had and I will post it over here. So what I will do is this. Okay. So I missed something. What did I miss over here? I'm not at all familiar with how the put works. And now I'm getting my hands dirty by just making a request without reading the documentation. That is very bad of me. I should get back and read what the documentation says first. All right. So let's get back to the documentation. So what is put documentation? To update an existing joke, you use the base URL and joke. Put updates the entire object. So add server, so add the updated data in body of your request. Make sure you change the ID to the ID you used earlier and make changes. All right. So this might have worked, but you should always make sure that you read the documentation. So let's do it this time. And yeah, so let's check what was the joke earlier. I'm sending in a request to 111. So what might have happened? Let's go back. Okay. So did something happen? I don't think something happened. But okay, this is stop working. Okay. So what might have happened is that when we made a put request and we send it, it should have updated it, right? Why has the server crashed? So I guess Ali can answer it better, but I guess it has something to do with the fact that there were several requests made to it simultaneously, so it wasn't able to handle it, and that's why I guess the server crashed. But yeah, it's all right. It happens, and that is what developers are for, right? Getting back the servers running. So what might have happened is when we made the put request, it should have updated, and I would be able to get back Lakshit Singh this time. Okay. Joke not found. Okay. What we will do? I guess Ali flushed in the server, so we'll try it again. Okay. So I added in my joke. I will do it fast this time so you don't get time to crash the server. But yeah, so I made a put request. My joke is there. I got a 201. So this was a small p and this was a small d over here. I capitalized them both. And then I will make a put request. Okay. Cannot make put request. So this was a wrong URL. Yeah. So this time I got back 204, which means no content, but the server request was processed successfully. All right. So let's get back to get data and let's try out. Someone changed it again while I was there. Yeah, Alwar is cool. Alwar is my hometown. So someone who knows me has done this. Anyways, but yeah. So someone updated this, right? You can see over here, someone updated this. since it's the API has no form of authentication, so that's why it was updated by anyone. But usually APIs have authentication, but since we wanted you to try it out, we didn't have any authentication, so that's why you were able to do it. Now the final part, let's get back to the documentation, view the documentation, and let's go to delete. So to delete a joke, we have base URL, joke, and ID. So I will again duplicate this. I will head over here. I will name it delete. You don't need a body, so remove the body, save, and then over here I will type 111, and then I will send it. Why is it taking so much time? I guess you guys are again trying to crash the server. Okay, you weren't able to crash the server this time, so joke with ID 111 is deleted. So if I get back over here, Alvar won't be cool now. It will be 404, I guess. It should be 404. Let's wait. So let's drop in the chat section and let me know if you were able to try out at least 3 of these requests. What methods all you tried out, let me know in the chat section if you were able to try out these. Those who are doing it, all great. So it is taking time longer, I guess server might have some issues again, but anyways, so my joke was deleted, and if I tried it out again, I would have got a 404. Get books put. Great. So this was with it. If you want to try out, you can again try to work with codes and the books API as well. But this was all for our hands-on session. So let's get back to the slides. So let's recap what we all tried. We tried the methods. Some of you were able to try out all methods. And we tried out addresses, we tried out parameters, we learned about authorization, and we tried body data. So that was the recap. So now from here onwards, you should try out the things that you learned about. So you can become a Postman expert, and for that you get a certification as well as a badge. And what that Postman badge means is that you were able to sending sophisticated requests in Postman, written documentation, and lots of things. So you are a trained Postman person that you are able to run all these things with APIs, and that makes you eligible for Postman Student Expert. I will share in the link with you all. So you can head over here, register for the program, and try it out. If you want to register for Postman student programs, you can become a Postman student expert, earn the badge, show it off, and yeah, you can do that. Now let's talk about swags. So if you remember, Ali mentioned in the chat that you can earn in some swags. And yeah, so how are you going to earn in some swags? So what you need to do is you need to create a blog post, and the link, what you can do is for the blog post, all you need to do is create a blog post sharing what all you learned in this workshop, and make a blog post out of it, right? Make a technical blog post and share it on platform like Hashnode, Dev.to, or Medium, and make sure to tag me and use the tags Postman student, and we will send the swags to you. So I will recommend you all to use Hashnode and Dev.to so that you can tag me as well, and I can look over your blogs, and then we can send you swags. The other method will be for you to create a post on LinkedIn or Twitter. So we will select some posts from LinkedIn and Twitter that will cite what all you learned in this workshop, and we will send in swags. The Postman Ali will be sending you swags from the post that we will select. So you can create a swag. You can create a post on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. Tag me over there. Use the hashtag Postman student, and we will look over it and send you the swags if you make it. All right. So let's talk about resources. So you can go head over to any of these resources and learn more about Postman. You can go over to learning.postman, explore Postman, community Postman. And Ali also dropped in the Discord Discord server link, so you can join the Discord server. And yeah, let's get to Q&A. If you have some question that you kept for me, that will be great. You can drop in your questions right now. If you have any questions, you can drop in right now. The questions can be about anything. I hope I was clear on how you can earn in the swags, and I hope I made you learn something about APIs right now. So if you have any questions, you can drop in right now. We are in a Q&A. Okay. Okay. So yeah, we'll talk about GSOC soon. Let's do this soon. We will talk about GSOC soon as well. And yeah, I would like to tell you all something. Okay. So I will take a moment to do this. Okay. So if you are familiar, Postman also is an organization in GSOC. So if you are familiar with Postman, you can contribute to Postman as well. So let's see, Postman. Search in Post. This Postman. Okay. So I guess Google search is broken, but anyhow, so Postman is also one of the organization that, okay, there is Postman. Is it? Yeah. So Postman is also one of the organizations in GSOC, so you can contribute to Postman as well and join them in GSOC. So that is a great opportunity for you all. And yeah, so you need to fill in. So I will take a moment for you all to fill in this feedback form. Do it right now or do it just after the workshop. So you need to fill this form as well to be eligible for the swags. So make sure you fill in the feedback form so I can submit it back to Postman people and they can work on how they can get these sessions better. And you can DM me at 1108 King. That is my Twitter handle. You can contact me over there. If you wanted to ask me something or you want to know something more about Postman or anything, you can contact me over here and I will